Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Let's talk about point of view. The editing symbol for point of view is POV. Anytime you see POV on one of your papers that I've gone through and marked, that means that you've made an error in point of view. And while point of view errors are not fouls, they're not major grammatical errors, they're on the same level, I'd say, as word choice errors. In other words, they're not really fouls, but they're penalties. And then when these penalties start to accumulate, it can detract from your writing. So we have to be careful with point of view. What is point of view? What point of view refers to is perspective, the perspective of the writer. And these are the three different points of view: first person, second person, and third person. First person point of view, this is be represented by the writer's personal point of view, such as I, my, or if he were in a group, we, us, our. Okay? And this type of writing is often called reflective writing, when you think about something you were involved in and then you give your personal perspective, your personal point of view on that idea or that event. And this is called subjective writing. So if you ever heard the term, you're looking at this subjectively, if somebody ever says that to you, like if there's a problem and says you're looking at this subjectively, that means you're filtering it through your own perspective. Second person point of view this is when you have you and your. This is often referred to as the direct address, when you're talking to someone face to face. That's second person. An example of second person, if you're ever reading instructions, right? They'll be written in the second person because the author, when the author sat down, when he or she sat down to write those instructions, he or she imagined a person being there. So that would be an example of second person. Third person is different from first and second. What happens in third person is the author removes him or herself from the writing. And this is called objective writing. Again, in the third person, the author removes him or herself from the writing. And this seems to be a little bit of a puzzle. People say, well, hey, Mr. K, how can I write about something without giving my own perspective? And it can be done quite easily just by omitting the subjective pronouns. So you don't have to filter everything through your own perspective to write about it. And this often happens if you ever encounter, say, for example, a problem and you're kind of working through it with a friend or family member, and the person will say, you're looking at this problem subjectively. In other words, you're putting yourself at the center of everything, and you're seeing how everything relates to you. Oftentimes, to solve problems, life problems, not talking about algebra, but life problems, look at it objectively. In other words, take yourself from the center, right? Because after all, the world doesn't revolve around you. You're part of the world, and the world just turns. It doesn't turn around you. Don't look at problems subjectively, look at it objectively. In other words, take yourself out of the problem and look at it from a true vantage point. And in college writing, this is the point of view that we want to focus with moving forward. We want to write in the third person. Third person objective writing is very, very common in academia. You should only write in first or second person if you're told to. With that said, third person is the default. All of your writing moving forward should be in the third person. Again, if you see POV, that's the editing symbol that you've made a slip up. You did not write in third person, but instead you wrote in first or second person. Let's look at some examples and identify what point of view it's written in. Our feelings about being touched also depend on our cultural background. Latin America and Southern Europeans, for example, casually touch each other more than Northern Europeans and most Americans. There was a clue there. Did you see that? Yeah, that lets us know what is this. First person point of view. Another example. The work of separating various living things into their groups is not an easy task. For example, there are 1,500 species of bacteria and approximately 8,500 species of birds. If we look in here, the writer is not including him or herself. This is not a set of instructions. The writer's not talking to us. What is this? Third person. What about the next one? You were given a 2-page list of requirements for the thesis. It must be Arial font, printed on cotton fiber paper, and it must have exact margins, among other details. Yeah, it sounds like a set of instructions. That's second person talking to the reader through writing. A superstition is something that someone is afraid of without any factual basis. And many superstitions are centuries old. What do we have here? There's no I. In other words, it's not saying that I believe in superstitions, or not saying, do you believe in superstitions? That would be first and second person. What do we see here? We're objectively looking at this topic, and that's third person point of view. Again, the default in college writing is third person unless you're expressly told to write in first or second person. First person is subjective writing. That's often called reflection or reflective writing. Second person is the direct address, like you'd be doing for a set of instructions. So please remember, we want to write objectively, moving forward, third person point of view. Until we meet again, be well, do good work, and keep in touch.